exploding. Something is wrong with my water. My plumber says I don't have a connection to the main line, which is ridiculous. I need you to tell me if you did something. I blinked. Me? Why would I do something? She let out a laugh, but there was no humor in it. Oh, come on, Jake. We both know my water was working just fine yesterday. Now, all of a sudden, nothing? What are the chances? I shrugged. Well, considering how much water you were using, maybe you just ran out. Her mouth opened and closed, her brain clearly short-circuiting at the idea. This isn't funny. My plants are dying, my fish are suffocating, and do you have any idea how much my property value will drop if my lawn turns brown? I scratched my chin, pretending to think. Sounds rough. She glared at me. Fix it. I let out a long sigh. Karen, I hate to break it to you, but you don't have a legal water connection because you were stealing mine. Her eyes widened, but before she could deny it, I raised a hand. I followed my pipes. You had an illegal tap running straight from my well into your property. That's why your koi fish were practically living better than me while my farm was drying up. Her jaw tightened. That is a ridiculous accusation. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen a few times before holding it up. There, clear as day, was the video footage from my security camera, showing the pipe running from my well straight into her yard. Karen's face drained of color. You can't prove I did that, she stammered. I raised an eyebrow. Doesn't matter who did it. Your property, your responsibility. And since you were the only one benefiting from it, I'd say that makes you guilty. She gritted her teeth, looking like she wanted to scream. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and let out a forced chuckle. Okay. Look, let's not get dramatic. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. I'm sure we can work something out. I smirked. Oh, we're definitely working something out. See, I could report this. Illegal water theft? Pretty serious stuff. The fines alone would be in the thousands. Maybe even legal trouble. Her face twitched. But you wouldn't do that, right? We're neighbors. I chuckled. Neighbors don't steal from each other. She let out a nervous laugh, shifting her weight. Okay, so, how much do you want? I tilted my head. Excuse me. How much to make this go away? She asked, voice low. I'll pay you. Just name your price. I pretended to think. Well, let's see. I lost weeks of irrigation. My crops suffered, my animals suffered, and I had to pay a plumber to come out for no reason. And then there's the principle of the thing. So, how about you cover my losses? I'd say, 5,000 should do. Her eyes nearly popped out of her head. 5,000? That's insane. I crossed my arms. You know what else is insane? Stealing water. She let out a frustrated noise, pacing back and forth. That's robbery. I shrugged. If you prefer, I can take this to the HOA and the authorities. But something tells me they'll be a lot less reasonable than me. She stared at me for a long time, her jaw working as if she was chewing on the reality of her situation. Finally, with a defeated sigh, she muttered, Fine. I grinned. Pleasure doing business with you. By the end of the day, Karen had transferred the money to my account, grumbling the whole time. But her problems weren't over yet. Not even close. The HOA got involved the next week when Karen, in a last-ditch effort to save face, tried to claim she was the victim in all of this. Unfortunately for her, my video evidence spoke louder than any excuse she could come up with. They slapped her with a hefty fine for violating neighborhood regulations, adding even more financial pain on top of what she already owed. To make things worse for her, word spread fast in the community. Soon, everyone knew what she had done. The woman who had spent so much time trying to portray herself as the queen of the neighborhood was now the town joke. People whispered when she passed, some even laughing outright when they saw her struggling to keep her once lush yard alive with the few legal watering hours allowed. Karen had wanted to steal my water without consequence. Instead, she had drained her own wallet, ruined her reputation, and turned herself into the laughingstock of the HOA. And the best part? I was just getting started. Karen thought her suffering was over after paying me off and dealing with the HOA fine, but she had no idea that karma was just getting started. Cutting off her water supply was just the beginning. Now, she had to live with the consequences of her actions, and I had a front-row seat to her downfall. The first sign of her empire crumbling was the state of her yard. Without my stolen water feeding her ridiculous fountains and oversized lawn, her once pristine property was starting to show the truth. The grass, which had been unnaturally green for months, turned brown in patches, then yellow, then completely dead. Her koi pond, which had been the pride of her backyard, became a glorified mud hole. The expensive fish she had paraded around as a status symbol had to be rehomed, and I heard from a neighbor that she had to pay someone to haul them away. That alone must have been humiliating for her. The fountain was the next to go. I remember stepping out onto my porch one morning, coffee in hand, as Karen and some poor landscaper stood staring at the dry, useless structure. The man kept shaking his head while Karen flailed her arms, clearly arguing that there must be a way to bring it back to life. But without a free, endless water supply to steal from, there wasn't much hope. By the end of the week, the fountain was gone, leaving behind an ugly, empty space in her backyard. Her paradise was falling apart piece by piece. She tried everything to keep up appearances. First, she started hauling in jugs of water from the grocery store, hoping to save what was left of her dying plant. That worked for about a week until she realized just how expensive and exhausting it was. I spotted her one evening, dragging gallon after gallon of water from her car, her face red with frustration as she tried to keep her lawn from turning into a desert. It didn't work. The summer heat was relentless, and without a constant water source, her lush landscaping dried up faster than she could save it. Then came the HOA's final blow. While Karen had managed to worm her way out of legal trouble, the HOA wasn't about to let her off so easily. Since she had been caught illegally tapping into my well, they passed a new regulation preventing any homeowner from installing any kind of underground piping without official approval. That meant if Karen ever tried to get water from anywhere other than the city's limited supply, she would need permits, inspections, and a hefty fee to even attempt it. She had officially been cut off for good. She tried to fight back, of course. Karen wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. She called an emergency HOA meeting, trying to rally support from other homeowners, but no one was on her side. Word had spread fast about what she had done, and most of the neighborhood was still laughing about it. Some people even made jokes about setting up a Karen tax for anyone caught breaking water regulations. The meeting ended with her storming out in frustration, realizing she had lost whatever influence she once had. With no other options, she started looking for a way out. The "for sale" sign went up in her yard not long after, but the market wasn't exactly in her favor. Nobody wanted to pay top dollar for a house with a dead lawn, no backyard appeal, and an HOA history filled with violations. The best part? The only people interested in buying were fellow farmers like me. And Karen absolutely despised the idea of her house being owned by someone she considered beneath her. She tried to hold out, refusing low offers and insisting she would wait for the right buyer, but the longer she waited, the worse things got. Her reputation was already trashed, and with each passing week, her house looked worse. The heat had taken its toll, leaving her yard looking more like a dust field than a garden. Even the front of her house was starting to show signs of neglect. Without her endless stolen water supply, everything about her once perfect home fell apart. Then came the final humiliation. One morning, I noticed a moving truck pulling into her driveway. At first, I thought maybe she had finally found a buyer, but as I watched, I realized she wasn't selling. She was leaving. Karen, the woman who had spent months pretending to be the queen of the neighborhood, was packing up and running away. I watched as she and a few movers struggled to load up her overpriced furniture, her designer patio sets, and whatever dignity she had left. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. She didn't knock on doors or try to play the victim one last time. She just disappeared, like a bad memory fading away. And when the moving truck finally pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind an empty, lifeless house, I let out a long, satisfied breath. The war was over. In the days that followed, her house sat empty, a ghost of what it once was. The once green lawn was now just dirt and weed. The backyard, which had been her pride and joy, looked abandoned and forgotten. And as the weeks passed, the offers on her house dropped lower and lower until, finally, someone bought it for a fraction of what she had originally wanted. And who was the lucky buyer? Me. It wasn't even about revenge at that point. It was about principle. Karen had spent so much time trying to ruin my farm, trying to act like she was better than me, and in the end, she had paid me thousands just to leave town. Buying her house was just the final cherry on top. After signing the paperwork, I stood in what was once her pristine backyard, looking around at the dried-up mess she had left behind. It was a fitting end. She had stolen from me, and in the end I had taken back everything, plus more. I turned on the hose, letting the water flow freely onto the ground, knowing that, for once, it was exactly where it was supposed to be. And just like that, the water war was over.